Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Good morning. Welcome to the Sunday edition of Racing Across America. I am Seth Merrow. As always, thanks for joining us. As usual on a Sunday, a little recap of some of the Saturday action. You can see I have plenty of papers here because there was some nice action yesterday, highlighted by the good stakes card at Churchill, obviously, but also at Belmont. And we had a race across the pond, as it were, with the Epsom Darby. I'll go back and look at a couple from Friday night at Penn National, Penn Mile, and the Penn Oaks as well. And there were a couple of two-year-old performances over the last week and a half or so that were notable as well. And one replay I didn't pull up was Drafted winning yesterday at Monmouth. And it was a nice performance from the 8-year-old. I wasn't quite sure when I was in here handicapping yesterday whether he was the same horse, and as I said, as an 8-year-old, picked their spots, and I think the Mr. Prospector yesterday at Monmouth was a well-picked spot, but Drafted looked pretty nice. As I say, I didn't pull up that replay for today, but you can go back and look at that. And get an 8-year-old, nice performance like that, and now is on the verge, I think, with yesterday's purse, just under $1 million in earnings, but did want to tip my hat to Drafted with the Monmouth Stakes performance yesterday. Also of note, Gulfstream, no racing again today. They were on the sidelines yesterday because of the storm. The storm dumped a lot of rain down there in that area, and so no racing again at Gulfstream today. Now they'll have a few days to kind of dry out, and you'd have to think they'll be back on schedule next week. But no surprise that they're not there because they really got dumped on, I think, pretty significantly. Just before we went on the air, you saw the graphic. We do have a couple of promotions here at the Clubhouse Racebook this afternoon. We'd love to have you come on down and join us for some racing action, maybe grab a little lunch and whatnot. The Match Bet promotion is here this afternoon, so you can swing by and enjoy that, and also the Knockout Challenge as well. Both of those here at the Clubhouse Racebook this afternoon. That, of course, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. All right, let's get to some of the racing action, and we'll kick things off at Belmont. And again, I was in covering virtually all of this yesterday on OTB Live, and when I handicapped the Pennine Ridge, I put a manual on top. And I said it seems like year in, year out, this is about the time of year where you get 3-year-olds like Emmanuel, who had shown some promise, and then, not that they didn't live up to it, it's just maybe they weren't proving themselves to be up in that upper echelon of 3-year-olds to continue on knocking heads on that level. And so they will pop over and try the turf. And sometimes they're just better. They're just classier than the turf runners. And so I used Emmanuel on that thought. Emmanuel had broken the maiden in the career debut down at Gulfstream, won the second start at Tampa, both in fine fashion, then fourth in the Fountain of Youth behind Simplification, third in the Bluegrass behind Zandon. And again, a perfectly good record, but that they elected to say, hey, let's try the turf. Again, it's just that time of year where you see these kind of 3-year-olds go over. Sometimes they just outclassed a bunch, and I think that was the case yesterday with Emmanuel. Emmanuel, the number 6 horse, really kind of took him all the way around. Top of the stretch. Rod Ortiz on board, getting it done on the turf. And again, looking pretty good, looking pretty classy all the way around. So we'll see where they go next. Obviously, you have a horse that has shown ability on the dirt and now a winner on the turf. And again, this is that subdivision that I like quite a bit, the 3-year-olds on the turf. And you would have to think he places himself off this one race in a pretty good spot in that subdivision at this point. And I like it because there are so many opportunities for these types as the year progresses all across the country. And right up here, of course, the Hall of Fame. Maybe we'll see Emmanuel there. But again, they have plenty of options. They can kind of pick their spots now because he has run fine on dirt and now has a pretty good looking turf stakes victory on his resume as well. So it was Emmanuel yesterday in the Pennine Ridge, looking pretty good. And 88 buyer, solid number. Just see how that matches up to what we've seen. So yeah, I mean, that's right in the ballpark of what we saw on the dirt as well. His lifetime best buyer was the optional claiming win down at Tampa with an 89. The Bluegrass, he ran an 88. So just kind of followed up with a similar number yesterday on the turf. All right, let's go through some of the stakes races at Churchill yesterday. Really nice stakes card, no question about it. And we'll kind of work our way backwards from the Audubon. The Audubon, again, 3-year-olds on the turf. That subdivision I like quite a bit. And it was a little bit of an upset. 30-1 on the morning line, 40-1 as they went off. It'll be number 5, Kitadan, getting it done over. But again, at 40-1, and I'm just seeing the longest price on the board, $82, Kitadan, in a ding-dong battle here, but prevails by a head eventually. The number 5 horse on the outside, Geraldo Corrales on board, and getting it done at a big price for trainer Eric Foster. Steve Bick tweeted out about Eric Foster and said, kind of a fun story because, and I'm just looking at Steve's tweet, Eric's a former construction worker. He barrel raced. He was an exercise rider as a young man. He and his wife, Brooklyn, redirected their lives a few years ago to thoroughbred racing full time. And they wind up with this nice stakes winner on Saturday, $200,000 stake. But what's notable, they claimed the horse last out for $80,000. And what's more notable, this horse was claimed back in February for $35,000, and 2 races later won the $195,000 rush away. The then owners come out of that and go, well, let's put him in for a tag and an optional claimer. Eric Foster jumps in and picks up a stakes race after the claim. You're not going to see past performances like this too often, where in a series of 5 races, you see 2 claims and subsequent stakes wins after those claims for the different connections. But hats off to the Eric Foster team for getting it done. And again, nice story on someone who kind of changed the profession, went over, and very clever now, at least at the claim box with this one, picking up the better part of the $200,000 purse yesterday. Again, first off the claim at $80 and $82 actually. Kitadan getting it done in the Audubon, again with a nice little side story there as well. Highlight of the day was probably the Blame. Highlight going in, it was maybe a little bit disappointing, certainly coming out for the folks behind American Revolution. American Revolution, the really, really nice New York bred who came to his own last year, looked really good facing the New York breds early on, took 2/3 of what used to be the Big Apple Triple. He won the New York Derby up at Finger Lakes and then the Albany at Saratoga last year. Ran 3rd in the Pennsylvania Derby behind Hot Rod Charlie and Midnight Bourbon. Came back to New York, won the Empire Classic against state breds, but then wound up the season last year winning the Grade 1 Cigar Mile. And had Joe Christofek on yesterday looking at some of these Churchill races. And Joe said, that I'm not totally convinced because that Cigar Mile maybe wasn't the strongest Cigar Mile, and otherwise he's beaten up on the New York breds, and so he wasn't convinced. Joe liked Dynamic One, so hats off to Joe. But again, American Revolution, I was with Joe on, and there was a little scenario as well. They tried to get American Revolution back to the races last week in the New York bred commentator. That didn't fill. I'm thinking because he was in. And American Revolution is the 8 here, right in the middle of the pack, and he's going to get swallowed up in the white silks. But the commentator didn't fill, so they went to Plan B to come down here. And Plan B is always a little bit of a question mark. But you see, coming through and getting it done, Dynamic One, Joe Christofek's selection, Proxy runs second, and Scalding, who had been, and I said this yesterday, no pun intended, but Scalding had been red hot for Shug McGahee, coming off of a couple of stakes wins on a nice improving kind of a performance. Scalding winds up third, but Dynamic One gets it done, pays $14.80. And again, hats off to Joe Christofek, who touted that one yesterday. American Revolution, again, disappointing for his team, goes off at just about even money and winds up fourth. But it was a Todd Pletcher trainee, and Todd Pletcher, of course, also the trainer of Dynamic One. So he winds up with a winner. As I say, a little bit disappointing maybe with American Revolution going to Plan B, but Dynamic One getting it done amongst the owners. Rapoli, Phipps, St. Elias, nice little runner for them throughout their career so far. Now it's win number 3 in start number 11 with 3 seconds and a third, so 7 in the money finishes, 6 exactas in 11 starts for Dynamic One, including yesterday the blame for a couple $100,000. This one had been based at Churchill for Todd Pletcher, and as I said, really over the last week or so, as we've been looking at some Churchill races and seeing, mainly, I mean, it's jumping off the page, Chad Brown and Todd Pletcher horses showing up at Churchill, but Shug also has some horses down there. He's been a little more of a Kentucky guy maybe over the years, but certainly Chad Brown and Todd Pletcher, seeing the number of horses they have in Kentucky. But if you look at some of the purses on the allowance races, for example, down at Churchill, they're phenomenal, but there's also a big part of that is a bonus for Kentucky breds. And so some of these New York-based outfits with Kentucky-bred horses are looking at those purses and saying, yeah, we got to be down there and be part of it. And as I say, Dynamic One, in the stakes race, it did include a little bit of a Kentucky-bred fun, but that part of the Pletcher outfit down there at Churchill. American Revolution, on the other hand, as I say, was based in New York, came down from Belmont when things didn't work out as far as the commentator coming together last week. And again, it just seems like often in horse racing, when you go to Plan B, that is not necessarily, sometimes Plan B works out, but oftentimes not so much so. But again, I was skeptical like Joe Christofek, but when you looked at the buyers that American Revolution had fired at the end of last year, it was just hard to kind of get by that one yesterday. But the 4th place finish, we'll see where they go next with American Revolution. With that one under the belt, you would have to expect a little more fitness, and maybe we move forward from that, but it'll be interesting to watch. In the Aristides, this was kind of fun and interesting. I had Greg Foley on the show a couple of times last year. We had him by phone probably about this time last year. And then we had him on up at Saratoga as well. And one of the horses we had talked about was Bango. I couldn't pull the trigger on Bango off the seasonal debut, but he probably needed that one. Gets back to gets some fitness back off of that first start, and with the record at Churchill Downs, Bango came into yesterday with 6 wins and 12 starts at Churchill. Second, a couple of thirds. He was the defending champion in the Aristides, but again, his seasonal debut is a little bit disappointing. So you wondered, is he the same? Will he come back? And I thought Bob's Edge was interesting yesterday. Bob's Edge was disappointing as the favorite, running 6th in the field of 8. But you'll see the nice stretch run here from number 1 Bango. Tyler Gaffleone on board, who again is riding so well down at Churchill, for Greg Foley. Greg was interviewed after the race. He was obviously ecstatic and said, how'd they let this horse get away at 10-1? And, in 2020 hindsight, you really do think, how did they let this horse get away? And look at the way he wins. Just really comes up the middle there and runs away. Chart margin is over 2 lengths. Necker Island second, Top Gunner third in there. I had those two in my mix. As I said, I like Bob's Edge on top, and that one disappointed. But Bango, no disappointment there for the Greg Foley outfit. And as I say, Tyler Gaffleone on board, pretty convincing for $22.20 in the Aristides yesterday. Solid 108.54 as well. I looked this morning, was checking on Twitter. I didn't see buyers for the Churchill races, but you'd have to think that's probably fairly solid. All right, in the race just prior to that, the Arlington. I liked Grace Fable, another one of mine that struggled a little bit, but underneath I did use Admission Office, and we talked yesterday again with Joe Christofek. He was a little more positive on Admission Office. I think he just felt like Admission Office probably outclasses this bunch. I was a little concerned. Admission Office hadn't been seen in well over a year. Last race in February of 2021. I had Admission Office underneath a little bit, but goes out for Brian Lynch yesterday. And Admission Office off the long layoff. That does not stop him. And I use Grace Fable, and when I was in here yesterday, I said that one, and I had Get Smoking in the mix too, both with speed. And I said they may duel and set it up for a late closer, or one may sneak away. Get Smoking did sneak away and looked to maybe have the oomph to get it done. But look at Admission Office. Look at this run. He's the one horse on the outside here. Keeps coming. Looks like Get Smoking, still looks like Get Smoking's going to get it done. But at the wire, Admission Office, the 7-year-old off a layoff of well over a year, Johnny Velasquez on board, gets it done at 7-1 from a 3-1 morning line. Now as I say, I was skeptical off the layup, but the 7-1 was kind of generous. And boy, this is really a nice stretch run for this one. Chart margins ahead, second to third and next, so it was a little bit of a blanket finish, but on the momentum, just a really nice performance. Get Smoking, great effort to not let anybody else go by, because for a moment it looked like the 5 might get by as well, and he'd wind up third, but he wouldn't let that one get by. But could not hold off the outside closer, Admission Office, as I say. An impressive stretch run, but also just impressive in the scenario of coming back off the long layoff like that and getting it done for Brian Lynch with John Velasquez on board. Also yesterday, again, on a really nice stakes day, it was the Shawnee, and another little bit of a puzzler on the day. Again, we had a big price in the Audubon that wrapped up the day a little earlier in this Shawnee. I really liked Pauline's Pearl. She's going to wind up running fourth, the number 5 horse, and she's there sitting third right now, and she's going to get bothered a little bit. And they didn't look afterwards yet. To me, she probably should have wound up. See here, the 3 kind of comes out and stops her momentum. The 3 comes out again. All that said, on the outside, not getting bothered at all. The 2 keeps going. The 2 is She's All Wolf. In the short field of 5, she goes off as the rank outsider at 20-1, but takes advantage of the situation, gets up, winds up winning by a length and a quarter. You can see the jock here, Arietta, kind of working, and then the momentum gets going and gets it done by a little daylight, length and a quarter. Ava's Grace runs second, Army Wife third. As I say, Pauline's Pearl, a little trouble there. I think without the trouble, she could have been third. I'm not arguing that she might have been the winner. Seemed like she was spinning her wheels maybe a little bit, but she did have a little trouble there in the stretch. But all of that said, hats off to Donnie Van Hemel and Connections with She's a Wolf getting it done at a $42.40 price in the short field of 5. That kicked off a late pick 5. You would have to think after that a lot of tickets went to the sidelines in a 5-horse field with some nice horses. I've liked Pauline's Pearl for the last really 3 races. Down at Sam Houston, the nice win. But more importantly, when she got back to Oaklawn and the Azaria, I liked her there where she just missed against Cece. And then I liked her in the La Troyenne, which she won on May 6th. So, yeah, I thought yesterday was a nice setup in the short field of 5. But again, I think she could have positioned a little better than she eventually did. But I don't think she was outstanding in there by any means, spinning her wheels a little bit in the stretch, but it'll be interesting to see, from the Steve Asmussen barn where she goes next, because I would think, Saratoga not totally out of the question. And finally at Churchill yesterday, the stakes action started out middle of the card at just about 3 o'clock with the Regret 3-year-old fillies on the turf. I like McCulloch, the Chad Brown runner. Walkathon from Ian Wilkes, however, is going to be the winner as the second choice. Yeah, McCulloch was the favorite. I mean, took a lot of Chad Brown action. Beside her, Todd Pletcher's horse, who I thought was also interesting, will run third. But Walkathon goes out, takes the lead, and takes them all the way around, and that just left McCulloch with too much to do. McCulloch is coming. You can see in the Klarovich colors there, but it just, as I say, Walkathon under Julien Leparoux had kind of opened it up and just left the others with a lot of work and wound up to be too much work. Notable here, though, as I say, this one going out for Ian Wilkes and Julien Leparoux. Julien Leparoux, this was a nice way to do it, too. Career win number 1,000 at Churchill. Not 1,000 overall, 1,000 at Churchill. Pretty good down there. Put him in, select company with the likes of Corey Lannery and Pat Day and whatnot. Nice performance there, and it's nice to do it in a stakes race. And he hadn't been sitting on it that long. In the winner's circle afterwards, they interviewed him, and he said, it's nice. Sometimes you get to these milestones, and it takes a while, but it was nice. Kind of got it sooner rather than later and got it out of the way. But it's nice to do it in a stakes race like that and put a milestone on the resume and do it in fine fashion, as it were. All right, let's take a look also, as I said earlier, not just here in the United States, but yesterday, notable racing across the pond as well with the Epsom Derby, or again, they now call it the Kazoo Derby. It's sponsored. I had to look up yesterday. Kazoo, an online car retailer in England, Great Britain. But the Derby yesterday, Group 1 event, 1.5 miles. The favorite was Desert Crown. Desert Crown, the number 2 horse, debuted last November at 1 mile and broke the maiden very nicely in the career debut. Then laid off from November until middle of May, came back, seasonal debut, 1.25 miles, wins that very easily. And then third career start, it's the Derby, and number 2, Desert Crown, at 1.5 miles, will get it done here and get it done pretty convincingly. You can see there coming up on the outside and kind of opens it. This is a pretty nice, this is, as they say, pretty incredible. Career start, number 3, 1.5 miles, and does it, as I say, convincingly. Huya Mal runs second. Masakela runs third in here, but notably for Sir Michael Studi, it is Desert Crown, the favorite, the morning line favorite, went off the favorite, and lives up to that favoritism with a pretty nice effort over at Epsom yesterday in the Derby, as they say. But again, just a really impressive performance from my perspective, in that you look at the entire resume. Start at 1 mile, then you lay off from November until May, and you come back at 1.25 miles, and then that third career start, let's go into Group 1 at 1.5 miles and win pretty easily like that. So Desert Crown, nice performance yesterday. Again, wanted to go back to Friday night as well, because it was the big day at Penn National with their Penn Mile card. And there was a number of interesting stakes there, but we'll take a look at a couple of them. The Penn Mile itself, which, again, kind of keeping a theme. We had a couple upsets at Churchill yesterday, and going back to Friday night in the Penn Mile. The favorite was Annapolis for Todd Pletcher. Annapolis was 2 for 2, But this was the 3-year-old debut. Salty spot to make your 3-year-old debut. And again, this is that division I like, the 3-year-olds on the turf. The turf listed, by the way, as soft Friday night at Penn National. But Annapolis debuted at Saratoga right at the end of the meet last year and won in the career debut on the turf at Saratoga. Came back at Belmont in the Grade 2 Pilgrim, won that, but hadn't been seen since those first 2 starts. So seasonal debut for number 1 Annapolis, ridden by Irad Ortiz. But the winner, number 2, you can see that one out there on the lead. And Annapolis, the number 1 on the outside, is trying, but just can't make up the ground. Chart margin winds up to be 1 1/4. Annapolis 1-2 on the board. Wow, what a summer! The winner, 83-1. A little bit of an upset there. Was not the ranked outsider. Was the second longest price on the board. The longest price on the board at 85-1. No need to worry, finished last in the field of 8, kind of living up to his odds, but outrunning his odds, to say the least, was wow, what a summer. Jim Lawrence trains. Tyler Connor was on board. Tyler Connor, solid 24% down at Penn National. Gets the opportunity to jump on a nice stakes performer, or proven now to be a nice stakes performer in a Grade 2, and they pick up the winner's share of the $400,000 purse in the Penn Mile. This is a horse that had shown a little bit of promise, earlier in the career, but notably, wow, what a summer, had never actually, until Friday night, come under the wire first in a race. He had broken his maiden in his career debut at Colonial last July on a disqualification, ran second that day, so got moved up on a DQ, had not won since until Friday night, and then picks up the better part of the $400,000 purse. But again, had shown a little bit of ability. It's just, you look and again, on the buyers as well, you look and you compare that one to Annapolis, and, the price, maybe the 80 was too long. It's hard to say exactly where this one should have been, but it was tough to make the case necessarily with a horse that hadn't come under the wire first and had the numbers that he had thrown. But again, you're looking at a horse 6 starts, a win, a couple of thirds, so been knocking at the door, and I'm sure with that record, they would have been happy to knock at the door again in a Grade 2, but they wind up with the winner's share of the purse. Annapolis, I would think for a seasonal debut, that's kind of a decent run. I'm sure they were disappointed, but, first start of the year, tough spot to kind of kick things off. But once you've got that stakes win under your belt, your options become a little more limited maybe. So we will see where Annapolis goes to, and we will watch for wow, what a summer. And it's not even summer, but now they're probably thinking, wow, what a summer it may be with that one. So we'll watch for that one as well, see if we can get some validation on a nice victory, or it may just have been really appreciated the soft turf. So now they'll be looking for turf races and watching the weather at the same time. Also on the card Friday night at Penn National, it was the Penn Oaks. And the favorite in here, this is the flip side. The favorite in here was number 4, Haughty. Haughty, Flavian Pratt on board for Chad Brown. And that one goes off at 2-5. And Haughty, as I say, in a flip side as far as the odds are concerned. Flip side to what we saw in the Penn Mile. The favorite gets it done in here. Chart margin winds up to be just under 5 lengths at 2-5. The Chad Brown runner getting it done in the Penn Oaks on Friday night. So there's some looks at the action. Again, Penn National annually, their big day with the Penn Mile and an undercard. There were some other nice stakes on the card as well. Those were kind of the two notables, but there were some other with some New York runners and New York connections. So it's a fun night usually, typically at Penn National. I think it was again. It's certainly fun for the Wow What a Summer people. I wanted to show a couple other races here before we wrap up the replay segment, because there were a couple of nice 2-year-old performances that I think we'll play into. One I know because the winners talked about it in the winner's circle, but you would think perhaps both will be aimed for the Sanford up at Saratoga, coming off of nice performances going back a couple of days ago at Belmont. Let's start out the first race at Belmont a couple of days ago. Andiamo a Firenze, a sibling to Firenze Fire, went off as a chalky 4-5 favorite, so obviously the whispers were out there. This one lives up to the whispers, looking pretty good in the career debut. Andiamo a Firenze for Kelly Breen, Irod Ortiz on board. Going to be the number 2 horse here, again, at 4-5. The chart margin winds up to be 4 lengths. Looked it up, the buyer number in 82. This time of year, you get into the 80s with these 2-year-olds. That's pretty solid. So this is the kind of performance that, again, you would think plays into some stakes action up at Saratoga, and so we will certainly look for that one down the road. It's a Kelly Breen runner. I mean, he also has some runners over in New Jersey as well, but you would think he comes up to Saratoga. You would think Sanford is perhaps on the agenda, definitely on the agenda for Forte, who just within the last week or so, this one also in an opening race at Belmont, maiden special 2-year-olds going 5. Forte went out for Todd Pletcher, Rapoli and Company. As a son of violence, I had used the horse on top in my selections that day because, again, violence to me notable for sending out first-time starters that are live. And this one, again, probably had the whispers going off at 1-5, and Forte going to be the number 2 horse here. The chart margin on this one just under 8 lengths. You can see in the Rapoli colors there. Forte pulls away, and this is kind of one of those visually impressive performances. The buyer number again for Andiamo a Firenze was 82. For Forte was 81. And as I say, at this time of year, an 80 buyer like that in the 80s, pretty solid. But again, this one definitely headed to the Sanford because they talked to Todd Pletcher in the winner's circle afterwards, the trainer of Forte, and he verified that that's the likely next spot for this one will come out of it. He said they went into this race thinking if we run well today, we're going to the Sanford, and so the plan worked out for Forte. So a couple of nice 2-year-olds, Andiamo a Firenze and Forte. And I just wanted to toss out one other. We watched it yesterday with Joe Christofek, so I didn't call for the replay again today. But going back to Friday at Churchill, there was a nice little optional claimer, non-winners of 3. It featured the return of Gunite, who was the hopeful winner from last year. But the winner turned out to be a horse named Conager, who kind of freaked on April 13th at Keeneland, ran a 97 buyer that day and won pretty easily. And that was, if you look down at the PPs, it was a complete aberration. Got it done that day in aberrational fashion at 73-1. A couple of days ago at Churchill, again in that race with Gunite, did not go off at 73-1. I forgot what the odds were, but they were single digits. It was, off of that race at Keeneland. People were now on board. Followed it up, and as I say, I didn't call for the replay again, but I did want to mention it because I've subsequently looked at the buyer. Conager, a 104 buyer. And these were 3-year-olds. As I say, Gunite was making his seasonal debut after having won the Hopeful last year. Ended the season running a little bit of a disappointing 5th in the Champagne, but was making the seasonal debut in that optional claimer a couple of days ago. But Conager got it done, and got it done really nicely. It looked impressive. The time was impressive. And the 104 is very impressive. And we shall see what is the game plan going forward. But mentioned, something like the Alan Jerkins, the Woody Stevens comes up too quickly, but the Alan Jerkins up at Saratoga. I mean, this is now just off these last 2 races, the first part of the resume, and not so much so, but the last 2 races, this is now a 3-year-old sprinter of note. So keep that in mind. Conager from a couple of days ago. And again, we had the replay yesterday. If you didn't catch that, you can go pull it up. The 7th race on Friday down at Churchill Downs. Take a look at Conager in that one. All right, we will take a break here. I don't know if I mentioned at the top of the show, but we're going to be joined when we come back by Tony Carlo, our friend Tony Carlo from Finger Lakes. I haven't talked to Tony in quite a while. Looking forward to getting Tony on board. But we brought Tony in because tomorrow at Finger Lakes, they have a Pick 5 carryover, but more importantly, they're guaranteeing $50,000 in the Pick 5 pool. It'll start at race 4 tomorrow at Finger Lakes. So I thought we'd bring Tony in and we'd kind of go through the Pick 5 sequence and maybe toss out some ideas and get you ready for that. That happens tomorrow at the Finger Lakes, the Pick 5 with a nice $50,000 guarantee. So all of that is coming up right after this. So stay tuned. Capital OTB is now streaming live on Roku. The RTN Racing channel on Roku lets you watch OTB TV live through your Roku device or your Amazon Fire Stick, rather than being limited to computers and mobile devices, which means you can now watch OTB live wherever you are. Simply open Roku, scroll to find the RTN channel, then click on OTB TV. OTB TV on Roku. Try it now.
Birdstone is an outside front. They're coming down to the finish. Can Smarty Jones hold on? Here comes Birdstone. Birdstone surges past. Birdstone wins the Belmont Stakes. But here comes High Chaparral. High Chaparral, the defending champ, to take it to Bob. These two arch rivals head to head with Joe Hart bearing down on them. It's going to be a three-horse photo finish to the turn. Here's the wire. Final finish.
What if there was a way to become a better horse player? To have a better knowledge of the game? To be more successful? What if there were a way to take what you've learned, what you know, and make better decisions, better choices? In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. As noted before the break, we are happy to be joined by our friend Tony Carlo. It's been too long since a Tony Carlo visit. Tony, good morning.
All right, Seth. Yeah, it has been quite a while. Thanks for having me back on.
Yeah, and we got to get you for a Saratoga visit too. I'm guessing you're going to come down the turnpike at some point, right?
Yeah, I'll try to. You know, I apologize for the last time. I had a couple friends in from California. You know how soft sometimes those California people can be. They didn't want to wake up at the crack of dawn. I can say that because I grew up in California. I might be a New Yorker now, but I'll always be a Californian.
I got a couple of nephews out there, so I know how it works.
What do you want? We got to get up at 6 a.m. so you can get some publicity? Nah, that's not happening.
Well, like I say, we'll work something out this season for sure because it's always fun to get a Tony Carlo.
I just want to invite them back in for the Saratoga trip. That's all. They get to stay in California and listen to us on Capital OTB.
There you go. I like that. Hey, Tony, I was looking at your Twitter feed in anticipation of this. Actually, I saw this the other day. Memorial Day, there were folks from a few tracks around the country that tweeted out pictures, and you were included. And you I think we pulled up a couple of pictures from your Twitter feed where you had pictures on the apron of a nice crowd. Great to see. Nice weather and a good crowd Memorial Day out at the Flakes.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It seemed like a lot of racetracks. I was watching a lot of fellow announcers and just other racetracks posting pictures and talking about their crowds on the Memorial Day. I had commented that it reminded me of the old days. I growing up in Northern Cal, going to Bay Meadows and Golden Gate Fields. We used to get 20,000 people out at the racetrack, and I know obviously at Naira, at Belmont, and Saratoga, the crowds are a lot bigger. And Finger Lakes has had some big numbers. I remember when Funnyside, I wasn't here yet, but when Funnyside raced, there's a photo in the elevator leading up to the catwalk, and you can see how packed the place is. it had that kind of atmosphere. And a lot of credit goes to our new director of racing, Todd Height, former general manager of Batavia Downs. And Todd's trying to do some things, and he wanted to bring back kind of a little bit of a family theme. We gave away T-shirts up in the upper grandstand. You know, in years past, if you wanted the T-shirt, you had to go to the gaming for it. And I understand everything is generated through the gaming floor, but it was nice to see racing not necessarily be the stepchild or the second child that's not loved as much. It had a great feeling. We had a chicken barbecue,
Nice.
hot dogs and hamburgers on the apron. We were giving away a voucher, which was pretty cool promotion. We gave away, like, if you went to the gaming floor and you earned 5 points, you could redeem it for a racing voucher. So a lot of credit goes to Todd Height. He's really been stepping up, trying to do some new things, and that's what we've got going tomorrow. It was Todd's idea with a one-day Pick 5 carryover to guarantee $50,000 in the pool. Now, I've been giving him a little ribbing. I think it's a little light, Todd Height. I think $50,000 is kind of it's a kind of a no-brainer. I think we'd easily get there. It'd be nicer if we could pump that number up. But, hey, we got to start somewhere. And like I said, a lot of credit goes to Todd.
No, that's why I pulled you on, because when I saw the promotion and I saw the $50,000 guarantee for a Monday, I think people are going to be really juiced up. People love the Pick 5 now. And these days where there's a carryover and now you toss in a guarantee, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So I definitely wanted to go through the sequence. Before we do that, I pulled up last night from Equibase, the human side of things, the trainers and the jockeys, and just wanted to touch on that, get your thoughts on the meet so far, and on the jockey side of things, Andre Worry leading, John Davila Jr. Running second, Jackie Davis in third, and she has been fun to watch because, boy, you talk about the work ethic. She's up there racing at Finger Lakes and hops on a plane and goes down and rides in New York a little bit, so she's been fun to watch. That's the jockey side. Over on the trainer side, yeah, the Engelhardt clan kind of sitting 1, 2, 3 currently. But give us some thoughts so far on the meet and jockeys and trainers and whatnot.
Well, like, you touched upon it. Andre Worry, it should be noted, like, Luis Perez has been our leading jockey the last couple of years. And anybody who knows Finger Lakes knows John Davila Jr. was perennial kingpin for the previous 20 years. But last year, Andre Worry had the lead in the stretch, and he had a bout with COVID, which kept him out for about 2 or 3 weeks. If Andre doesn't get sick, he was poised to maybe hang on, because he missed quite a bit of time, and Luis Perez gathered a lot of momentum late and was able to come and get the top spot. So it's not really a big surprise to see Andre right there on top of the standing. It should be noted that Andre's jockey agent is Justin Engelhardt, who is the youngest son of the Engelhardt. So when you've got Justin as your agent, you're racing for Chris, Jeff, and Jeremiah, and like you mentioned, those are the top 3. As far as Jackie Davis, she's a heck of a great gal, and she deserves all the credit. She works hard, and it's really nice to see her succeeding. So, I think when push comes to shove at the end of the season, it'll probably be a 2-horse race between Andre and Luis Perez when the dust settles.
Yeah, that big long season. So given the scenario last year, I guess maybe we have to root for Andre a little bit. Again, given the length of that season, and to kind of get it snatched away with a COVID situation. But all right, let's jump in. Again, tomorrow, Monday, $50,000 guarantee in the Pick 5. The Pick 5 is going to kick off in race 4. That's going to be about 2:30 tomorrow afternoon. And let's kind of go through the sequence and toss some ideas out. That 4th race, the kickoff leg, maiden 5 claimers going 5 furlongs. And as I looked at the race, the 2 obvious horses stepped out. I'd probably tilt towards Hardly Working, who's the second shortest price on the line at 5-2. Magic Pro is 3-2. But Jeremiah Engelhardt has Hardly Working for Mike Rapoli. Already has a try up at the Finger Lakes in similar company last time, ran second. But Magic Pro goes out for our friend Roddy Valente. Certainly I want to root for Roddy as well. Has a couple of starts at Finger Lakes already and getting a little additional class relief. Those 2 kind of jump off the page at me. What are your thoughts on the 4th?
I would agree, and I would probably say the 4 Entanglement is worth a little look. I would go 3 deep to start this Pick 5 sequence. I would start it with 3, 4, 6.
All right.
The one's coming back, and he just only has 3 workouts. The Heart Fixer only has 2 workouts. Legendary Bid, who I think would be a player with more foundation, only has 2 workouts. So I have a hard time seeing 1, 2, and 5 really making an impact in this start. 3, 4, and 6 to start it. I think the 6 Magic Pro is probably the horse to key on. He's the first time in for 5. Entanglement's racing for 5 in his debut. That's never the greatest sign in the world when you see a horse debuting at that cheap maiden 5. Hardly working. He did a lot of dirty work chasing his stablemate. That was his stablemate who won, hit by a wave, and he looked sensational winning. I'll say this about Hardly Working. Going in, I just watched the replay, and I was really going to lean towards picking this horse first. His replay at the wire wasn't as encouraging as I wanted to see.
Yeah, okay.
Granted, he did need that race, but his company lines aren't as good as Magic Pro. Magic Pro ran against Smart Storm, Bumble Monster, and Persistent Danger. Bumble Monster and Persistent Danger already came back and won maiden special weight. And then recently, he ran a pretty good race in the maiden 11. This is his first time for 5. I'm going with Magic Pro as my top pick. I would use 3, 4, 6 to start.
All right, sounds good. And again, always like to root for our friend Roddy Valente, and he was active in the claim box down at Gulfstream, and this was one of those claims. So yeah, Magic Pro, and an extra little dose of class relief is going to be very dangerous, no question about it. In the 5th race at Finger Lakes, we're looking at allowance non-winners of 2 lifetime types going 3/4 of a mile. Queen Dancer comes off a nice maiden breaker to start the season. Jackie Davis scheduled to be on board. Easy Play had been racing down at Naira, but now has a couple of starts up at the Finger Lakes, including that 52-buyer 3rd last time, which puts Easy Play right in the thick of things. But I pulled up a replay. I'm going back to Belmont on May 12th. We're going to look at number 3, Merger of Equals. Merger of Equals is going to be the winner here and was claimed. Moved into the barn of Linda Rice, but more importantly, moves out of the barn, as we can see as we watch the race here. When you can look at the silks and it's Klarovich and Chad Brown. Second start of the career, they dropped this one in for a tag. Linda Rice jumped in and picked the horse up and now ships up to the Finger Lakes. So Merger of Equals is very interesting to me. What are your thoughts on the 5th?
I think the 1 and the 2 are going to get all of the wagering attention. Queen's Dancer looked really good winning on the 2nd of May. She beat nobody. I'm going to tell you that. She beat absolutely nobody that afternoon. And she has a lot of speed. I will give her credit for that. But if you look at her early races to start her career, she had the lead, or she was forwardly positioned, and she had the lead at the 8th pole going 5.5 and 6 furlongs, and she didn't seal the deal. She beat nobody, and it was a 4.5 furlong race. She has not raced in nearly 5 weeks, and she only has 1 recorded workout. I know she's the speed of the speed, but I'll tell you what, she's going to have the lead at the 8th pole, but you're going to be holding your breath hoping she gets to the wire. Merger of Equals, I watched her replay, and as soon as she was able to switch out into the 2 pass, she seemed much more comfortable. I will say this, she beat nobody also. Yeah. The top 2, I think, in the wagering, they beat nobody. And Chad and Seth aren't going to give away anything for free. Nobody gives anything away for free. They dropped her in for 25. They said, you can have her. Manny Franco really had to shrug on her to get her going. She beat an 0 for 10 maiden, and Mrs. Bell came here to Finger Lakes and didn't do much. I'm kind of against the 1 and the 2, and I'm on the 3 and the 5. Probably more emphasis to the 5. I like her company line. Sabrine came back and won Wednesday in an N3L, defeating Toscanova Beauty and some other decent ones. I like Easy Play's race on the 9th of May, where she really rolled late. Then she kind of got gunned into the race on the 23rd of May. I think she's going to get a nice stalking trip chasing Queen's Dancer. I think Easy Play has a big look. And Starship Precious really had a good stride in the late stages on the 16th of May. And I like some of her company lines, especially the race 2 back when she ran against No Chalk for the Matisse boys. And No Chalk was able to go and win a big allowance race at Belmont at like $29. So I'm on the 3 and the 5. I can't fault anybody who wants to use the 1 and the 2, but I'll tell you what, they're both going to be short prices, and I think they're a little vulnerable. 3 and 5 for me, more emphasis to the 5, Easy Play.
Yeah, good info on the 1 in that first race, and as you know, it was 4.5, and that's kind of notably different than the 6. That is going to test that one a little bit. And yeah, on the replay we watched, there was some work being done on Merger of Equals, and I think you're right, is going to take a little action. Being claimed away from Chad Brown and Klarovich and now Linda Rice. So we will see in the 6th race. Top of the page, I have written this is a very competitive race. And I'm going to be interested to see where the betting public goes and how it all plays out. James Aquilano has a couple of horses in here that are interesting. Banyan Breeze coming out of a win in a fairly similar race last time, an Old Man Winter, and I pulled up, in fact, a replay of the Old Man Winter victory going back to May 18th at the Finger Lakes. Old Man Winter will be the number 5 horse in here. Between the two, as you know, a short price on the morning line for Banyan Breeze and 5-1 for Old Man Winter, I might tilt towards Old Man Winter, but I'd love to hear your opinion on the 6th.
Well, okay, here's what I think. I think Banyan Breeze is the horse to beat. And if you're on a limited budget, you've got to take a stand somewhere. I would possibly single him. My concern about Banyan Breeze is he's coming back pretty quick, and he's had a lot of races in a short stand. That's not something that I was taught how to handicap by my father. I like more spacing. Makes Finger Lakes tough because a lot of horses run a lot of races in a short span, so I always seem to run into problems. The thing about Banyan Breeze that I like the most is when he gets a target, he's a different animal. And I tried to emphasize this on the 9th of May during my analysis. I wanted River Card Stable and Jim Aquilano to employ tactics with an off-the-pace style. When this horse is put up on the engine, he's not the same horse. Last time on the 24th of May, he got the trip I wanted, and he showed the results. Now, he is carrying a $124 today, and a couple horses get in at a $119. I'm not really big on weight and sprint. I think Banyan Breeze is the best horse. You know, Warrior's Revenge is a horse that has a lot of talent, but he only has 4 workouts. Old Man Winter beat up on a bunch of cupcakes, but I think the 5-year-old has upside, and I don't know if he's going to beat a stablemate today, but I see Old Man Winter having a productive 2022. Deputy Flag's kind of the wild card. Is he the speed of the field? Last time he had to battle with Dugout. Dugout's a past class horse who won the New York Breeders' Futurity once upon a time. If Deputy Flag could shade free early, he might get a lonely lead. I'm hoping Mass Appeal will kind of soften him up and set it up for Banyan Breeze. Limited budget, I would say single for Banyan Breeze, but this race is very contentious.
Yeah, I agree completely. I was interested to hear your thoughts there. I think it's a very competitive 6th race.
I didn't even talk about Mass Appeal. I would like Mass Appeal a lot. The horse is getting a weight break. He's going to 119. I just have a hard time backing horses who get the lead at the 8th pole and don't seal the deal. I was taught that many years ago by one of the Hartmans, Phil Hartman, a younger brother to Chris Hartman, and it makes a lot of sense. Horses who find the front at the 8th pole and don't get to the wire, those are horses who you really want to stay away from. And if you look at this horse, in 3 of his last 4 races, he found the front at the 8th pole and couldn't seal the deal. One time when he did get to the victory, he had a 5-length lead at the 8th pole. You're going to lose money backing horses who get to the lead at the 8th pole and don't come through. Banyan Breeze, my top pick, Seth.
Excellent. And friends with the Hartman, Chris Hartman had the really good Oaklawn meet this year, right?
Yeah. He might have also. I think he might have been more at the fairgrounds. He has been at Oakland a lot, but Chris Hartman's a good horseman, and his brother Phil Hartman, who I met during my stint in New Mexico, he's a pretty shrewd individual himself. He's the one who kind of taught me that angle. He's like, "Come on, Tony, those horses had the lead at the 8th pole. I couldn't see it through." So, I listen to people I respect, no question about it.
And there are definitely horses that just don't seem to have that winning heart. And you get to the 8th pole and you look down the PPs and you realize they may be 3 lengths ahead, and you're still thinking, I don't know whether I'm gonna get this one off. Yeah, no, there are those tights. 7th race at Finger Lakes, stake bred allowance. They're gonna go 6 furlongs. Our friend Roddy Valente, another one in here, Throwing Stones, hasn't been seen since last November, but tends to show plenty of early speed. Gone and Forgotten, 5 wins and 7 starts. Just on the record, this horse will take some action, but again, hasn't been seen since last November. And Barber's Bank is interesting to me, coming in with a couple of wins already. What are your thoughts in the 7th?
Well, Seth, you haven't had me on in quite some time. You didn't give me the easiest of sequence, that's for sure. If I was playing a ticket, I would probably use 1, 2, 4, 5. 2, Gone and Forgotten. She's my gal. I love this filly. I really got on her last year. I told a bunch of people that I know on the 25th of August she was live. She did not disappoint me. You tossed out her race against Queen Arella. She's done nothing wrong. She is a very, very talented filly. I will say this, Michael S. Ferraro, with his comebackers, usually puts in a nice 6 furlong move. He did not do this with Gone and Forgotten. I utilized Equibase this morning, and I went and looked her up. She had 13 works in 2020, but never got to the races. Last year, she had 11 works leading up to her first start, and they were all 3 and 4 furlong moves. which is kind of strange for Mr. Ferraro. He likes to put in longer works. He likes to at least get a 6 furlong work. Not the case with Gone and Forgotten. This year she only has 6 workouts, but she does have 5 furlong workouts. And perhaps she's a lighter frame filly, and he just doesn't want to work her 6 furlongs. I know her best race is good enough to win, but if I'm playing this ticket, I'm using 1, 2, 4, and 5, and I'm having a hard time figuring out which one I'm going to go with as the top pick.
No, I totally in agreement with you. And what makes this race more of a puzzle is the 2 and the 5, and it's this at this time of year, and going back to the beginning of the meet, that's part of the handicapping puzzle at the Finger Lakes. A lot of the horses, the Finger Lakes season ends, and they go to the sidelines, and so then you have to decide, on the fitness level and whatnot. And it's good to know, your insight on the workouts and whatnot. And I always like to get it maybe a week and a half, a couple of weeks in, and just get a feel for some of the trainers who are firing off the layoff. That, on the day-to-day basis up at the Finger Lakes, that to me says a lot early in the season.
And a lot has to do with horses. If you utilize Equibase, you can go back and look at every race a horse has ever run. Now, Gone and Forgotten, last year in her debut, ran 3rd. I think it was a better race than it looked. She learned something. She was up close. She backed off. She came rolling. So I don't know if she doesn't want to fire fresh or she just needed to learn something. You go back and look at Throwing Stones. She has 3rd place finishes to start both of her seasons, back in 20 and back in 21. Now, granted, in 21, she only missed by a neck. But those are the 2 best fillies, in my opinion, in this race. The question is, are they both ready to roll at 6 furlongs?
Yeah, again, adding a piece to the puzzle. The finale at Finger Lakes tomorrow, the 8th race, $5,000 conditional claimers going 5. Another fun field, Delaware Destiny, I think. Probably fits, but again, comes off the layoff, so that's going to be the question mark. Saving Souls, on the other hand, came back, seasonal debut, broke the maiden nicely. Fastel, I think, can be a player with some back numbers that fit with this bunch. But I did pull up a replay for, I love the name, out of by the sire Bustin' Stones, Betty Rubble. Going to go back to November 4th of last year. Betty Rubble is going to be the number 5 horse in here, breaking her maiden. I just thought this horse might be a little bit intriguing, might offer a little bit of value because the buyers maybe look a little bit light as compared to some of the others, but being lightly raced and coming back as a new 3-year-old, I could see the horse moving forward a little bit. So Betty Rubble was a little bit intriguing to me. Your thoughts on the 8th?
Well, one thing I like to do with the maiden 5s is the 5 and 2Ls is I like to see where they graduated. So we look at Betty Rubble, we see a maiden 11. We look at Saving Souls, we see a maiden 11. We look at Fastel, we see a maiden 11. Some of these other fillies, we might see maiden 5,000 victories. So I think all the ones you have mentioned are logical contenders. It should be noted, Betty Rubble, another thing about Equibase, which is cool, you can figure out when a horse was born. Betty Rubble was born on the 25th of May. She is barely a 3.
Yeah.
Saving Souls was born on the 10th of May, so she's kind of young herself. I think they're all logical players. You know me, Seth, I like to go fishing. And I'm going with the 5. I'm going with Starship Prankster. I'm looking at a proof, and I don't have her actual post position or actual number in the program. Starship Prankster. I'll tell you what, this race on the 10th of May, go back and watch the gallop out, everybody. Absolutely crazy. Last time she got within 3 lengths before backpedaling a bit. Now she's going to go back to 5. Kevin Navarro's back aboard. Let's blow it up with the long shot king, Eddie Babcock. Starship Prankster to take down the whole pool, Seth, for Capital OTB.
I like it. 20-1 on the morning line there. I like it. Very good. Great way to wrap it up. Tony, always fun to talk to you. I was on with Steve Bick the other morning, my usual Wednesday spot. And I forgot why your name came up, but Steve said, "Man, that Tony, an underrated announcer out there at the Finger Lakes," and he gave it, and away they go, the signature. But Tony, always fun to talk to you. Happy we got you back on, and I will tell people again. Tomorrow, Finger Lakes, guaranteed 50,000.
Very happy to have you back on. And just one note, Seth, I know we got 50K guaranteed in the pool. If anything is like last year when we had a one-day carryover, we're going to be close to $75,000, $80,000, $100,000. So the 50K is that's just there. Come on, everybody, pump it up. Pump up that pool tomorrow for us.
I totally agree, because as I said earlier, people love these pick 5 now, and when there's a carryover, they jump in. And you being out there on a Monday, I think you're going to be the focus starting race 4 tomorrow down at the Finger Lakes. Tony, as I said, great to have you back on. A lot of fun. And again, if you're headed up to Saratoga this summer, give me a ring. We'll have you sit in with us.
Yep, I would love that too, Seth. Thanks for having me back.
Appreciate it. Tony Carlo from the Finger Lakes. Again, should be a fun day tomorrow with that guarantee in the Pick 5. And I agree with Tony. Pick 5s are so popular. And them being out there on the Monday tomorrow, I think that Pick 5 pool will blow up significantly. So hopefully we gave you some good ideas to jump in tomorrow at the Finger Lakes. All right, I'm going to wrap it up for this Sunday edition of Racing Across America. I'm Seth Merrow. It's been fun. Do want to remind you once again, we have a couple of promos here at the Clubhouse Racebook, the Match Bet promo, as well as the Knockout Challenge and the Match Bet. Right here, Clubhouse Racebook this afternoon, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. Coming up later this week, I will tout you coming up on Thursday here at the Racebook. We'll do the Exacta board again. You can come down, and if you hit your numbers hit the Exacta, you win a food voucher to the restaurant. Also on Thursday, there'll be another Pick 3 bankroll. We've been doing those right along, kind of piggybacking on our Twilight, Belmont, and Churchill editions of OTB Live on Thursday. So Pick 3 bankroll coming up on Thursday. You can go to the website and put your name in for that. I'm not sure whether that's open yet or not, but certainly keep that in mind as the week progresses. Pick 3 bankroll on Thursday. Friday, the return of the bounty bet, so keep that in mind. Friday, there's also going to be a Pick 5 bankroll. That should be a lot of fun. So again, check the website for availability to put your name in for the Pick 5 bankroll. Saturday, Belmont Stakes Day. Boy, looking forward to it. I mean, great racing, certainly. Belmont's fun and intriguing, but the Met Mile is really looking, and the Phipps, it's going to be a great day of racing down at Belmont. It's also the Belmont Syndicate. We're rooting for the Syndicate team. I think it opened on Friday, and I think it was closed later on Friday. The Syndicates have become very popular, and they're fun. It's a way for you to get in with a reasonable amount of money into some big tickets on big race days. And so we're rooting for the bankroll team to knock it out of the park on Belmont Stakes Day. So again, those are coming up a little bit later. As always, you can keep up with all the promos and events by going to capitalotb.com and click on that promotions link for all the promos and events that are coming up. As usual, I will be back about an hour and a half or so with OTB Live for Sunday afternoon. We'll look at some Monmouth, some Belmont, some Churchill. Saratoga Harness will also be in the mix this afternoon. Should be a lot of fun. Again, Gulfstream has canceled again today. They canceled yesterday because the storm was going through yesterday, and that storm dumped a lot of water on South Florida. So they're canceled again today. You would think with some nicer weather, hopefully in the game plan, that they'll kind of dry out and be good for the upcoming week. But no Gulfstream. If you're a Gulfstream fan, no Gulfstream today as well because of the weather situation yesterday. All right, that takes us to the end of Racing Across America for this Sunday morning. Again, appreciate you tuning in, as always, and we invite you to tune in a little bit later on for OTB Live. We'll be back in about an hour and a half or so, so we'll see you then.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.